Hey everyone, welcome back to our Masterclass Engaging with Youth. This is going to be session 3 where we are going to dive into discipleship and how do we mother and father young people. And what is the call to mother and father young people? How do you disciple well? We're going to dive right in. So, first verse, we're going to read a very common verse that I'd like to start with is Matthew 28 and the Great Commission. And to really expose any of that thought that people are excluded from discipling people. Mm-hmm. So Jesus, in Matthew 28, verse 18 says, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I love that this is a command. I think a lot of times this has been thought of as a church leaders, church volunteers. Hey, if you're going to be a youth leader or a children's worker, or you're going to, help out with the women's ministry or the men's ministry small groups, you're the one discipling. Yeah. And that's not what Jesus said. He was telling that his believers, this was a command, everyone is supposed to go and make disciples. And then he even goes a little further to tell you what that means. Because he doesn't just say go make disciples. He says go make disciples, baptize them, and teach them. Teach them everything I've told you, and I'll be with you always. And so we want to dive into this topic of discipleship and how do we do this well? And what does it look like to be a disciple, to make disciples, to father and mother people? And that kind of big phrase, father and mother people, that feels a little scary and kind of writes people out. And hopefully today we can go, man, any person on the planet can disciple a young person.
True.
And can father and mother a young person. And hopefully after this we can give some tools and things to go, man, who's the next person you're going to disciple? So as we start off, I want to just share a little bit like a personal story, how discipleship has impacted my life. And I think the difference when you start pulling out your own story, I think for me it's the first step of walking out discipleship is realizing what is the impact on my life been of discipleship or the lack thereof. What has the impact been? And for me, I come from a family where I have 3 other siblings. And me and 2 of my siblings were raised pretty similar. Sometimes in a family, you can have like older siblings that are kind of raised different and younger siblings that are raised different. Yeah. For me, definitely had older siblings that were raised a little different, but then me and my youngest sibling, we were raised very similar, very, very similar. Similar space, similar upbringing, similar experiences, similar church, all that stuff. Yeah. The one difference is, and me and my younger sibling live now 2 very different lives of even walking with God, of life, of values, all this different stuff. I've always wondered, how does 2 people that have a shared experience come out so different? Yeah. And in my journey, as I've looked at my own life, I've discovered that I had 2 people, Tom and Leslie Crandall, who had a pivotal moment in my life when I was just 19. So I was still in that gap of the young person that is trying to take risks, trying to find out where they belong, trying to find out what their purpose is, where am I going, what is this unto? They took me in and they brought me in and started to disciple me. And I wouldn't have had that phrase. I wouldn't have said, I'm being discipled. I was very unaware. It was more like, I'm not making a lot of money at my job. I don't have a lot of food. And they would invite me over for dinner and I could eat all their dinner. And I was like, I'll take it. I'll come over to your house. I'll eat dinner because I don't have a lot of dinner and you make good dinner. So I'm going to eat. Like, I don't have a lot of food. I don't have a lot of money. I'm trying to figure this out in a new space. I'd moved cities. And they started letting me be a part of their life. Yes. And I think a lot of times when people hear the word discipleship, they can almost get this idea that says, I'm supposed to sit and tell you stuff, and then you do what I say. And as long as you do what I say, I'm discipling you. And if you don't do what I say, then I guess you are not a good disciple, right? And we don't really see that in the Bible, nor have I experienced that work. I had I had a leader before then that did that, and it didn't work. And then I had Tom and Leslie who just brought me into their life, and they did life, and I was a part of their life. And I got to see them at different levels and in different spaces and raise their kids and hear scenarios that they had to walk through and see how they navigated situations. And that is what set me up. It changed the course where me and my sibling landed. It was the one relationship I can look back on and go, I easily could have gotten to this spot. I had a lot of pain, a lot of rough stuff happen in different churches before I met Tom and Leslie, a lot of painful experiences with leaders. And yet I was like, oh, these people are different because they're letting me into their life, and I'm learning as I'm with them. And so it's important to realize discipleship is life together, life on life, doing life with people, pulling people into your life. And this can be hard because obviously some people are like, I'm very busy. As we all are. We're busy. We have 3 kids, me and Mari. We're busy. And you can easily get the temptation to go, I guess I don't need to obey that command. I guess that command wasn't actually a command. It was a suggestion. Oh, praise God, it was a suggestion because I have a full schedule. I'm very busy. And wow, especially with young people that are stone face, busy. Sorry, you don't understand the quality of person I am and how much I could give to you. So it's a waste of my time. And this is what happens to a lot of people at working with a lot of young people. When in reality, I'm like, some of our brilliant minds that are older and millionaires and businessmen and creative thinkers, we need them connecting with young people to give them a vision for where they could go and to pull them into a bigger reality. It's just hard because pulling somebody into your life costs you. I think it's why Jesus made it a command. So there's a few verses, because if it was hey, this is a good suggestion. It's a good idea. Most people wouldn't do it.
It's true,
Because it costs.
It's a big cost.
It's a cost. You're like, wow, I'm going to let people into my life. They're going to see vulnerable things. They're going to hear, learn, walk. But this is what Jesus did. This was his model. He said, I'm going to come to the earth, and I'm going to pull 12 people, and I'm going to walk with them. And they're going to experience life and the way I think. That's how he taught them his commands. If you notice, Jesus showed through life and corrected them, and that's how he taught them. So when he says teach them, he didn't just teach sermons. That's not how he discipled people. He would teach the crowds and then explain to his disciples intimately what that meant. So you're going, teach, but he's actually explaining, hey, here's why we do the things we do. Here's why we believe the things we believe. Here's why we go after the things we go after. A few verses I want to read. And then we're going to kind of dive head into this topic. So the first one is out of Judges 2, verse 10. It says, all that generation also were gathered to their fathers, and there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord, nor yet the work which he had done for Israel. And this verse is right after Joshua passes away. So obviously Joshua leads the children of Israel into the promised land. He was very connected to Moses. You can see when Moses is in the tent, Joshua is with him. He's lingering. So Joshua is being discipled by Moses. Like there is a clear connection between Moses and Joshua. Joshua, as a young man, has been brought into Moses' life. And what happens? Moses cannot lead the people anymore, but he has raised somebody up that can. Joshua. This is really important. But Joshua dies. All the elders of Israel die. And it says all of that generation passed away, but a new generation arose. We see then that the next generation didn't know the work that the Lord had done for Israel. So somewhere between Moses and Joshua connecting, Joshua never made that connection. Something changed. Moses raises up Joshua to have a value for the presence of God to conquer the land. But Joshua, for some reason, the next generation is not raised up. There is no more. And what happens? Israel does evil in the sight of the Lord. I love seeing situations like this. It happens in the Bible a lot. You can pretty much see if the nation serves God, it's because the principles of God were passed down from one generation to the next. When they didn't, you realize there was a breakdown from one generation to the next, and the generation did evil. Yeah. I love seeing stuff like that because I go, oh, the value and importance of raising up a generation to know God, to walk with him, and to experience him is the difference of a nation walking with God or not. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we're talking about this and we're like, oh, it's a young person. Oh, but I've got visions and dreams. I've got aspirations. And I'm like, no, totally. I love that. I want to change our nation. I'm like, totally, me too. Mm-hmm. The next generation will impact where the nation goes after us. Mm-hmm. So if we don't continue to change the nation and impact and pull the next generation into the change, life on life with us, we actually will find that all of our efforts become in vain. Why? Because the next generation will flop it. Yep. Yeah. It's like a lot of people are trying to do a lot of stuff, and they're like, I want to create something that changes the world right now. And I'm like, that's awesome. Bring somebody with you, or otherwise that change is not long-lasting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what you see in the Bible. You just see this constant turnover that you're like, there's no momentum within generations because after so many times, it stops being passed down. So how do we do this well? And how do we mother and father people? How do we disciple people? Do you have any thoughts, or do you want me to keep going? So I'm going to read a verse, and then I want to try to make this as practical as we can and make it to where you realize what it is and what it isn't. What it is and what it isn't. So Matthew 10:24 says, a disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master. It is enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher, and the slave like his master. I love this verse because it reveals something. Discipleship is actually to elevate a person to become like you. Mm-hmm. So as Jesus was discipling his 12 guys, he was trying to make them think like him, to live on the earth like him. As we disciple people, we're going, I want to change how you think about the world around you, how you think about the Bible, how you think about God. I want to change how you think. And for me, I kind of break down discipleship in 3 simple ways. For me, I'm like going, I want to teach people how to believe in Jesus, their beliefs. I'm going after that. I'm like, why do you believe the things you believe in? How do you believe those things? Yeah. I want to teach you how to think. How are you thinking about life, about your future, about God, about the Bible, about what's possible? How are you thinking? And who are you becoming? And I think Jesus did this really well. He pulled in people and he started challenging their beliefs. You can see it as they're like going through the Gospels. You'll notice them like, let's call down fire. And he's like, whoa, you don't know the spirit you're of. Hey, let's change. You had a belief that the only way to solve disrespect is judgment. Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a different belief system. The way we solve disrespect and rejection is not judgment. Yeah. Okay, you don't know the spirit you're of. Well, there was an initial belief that then had to change the way they thought about it. Okay, so the next time there's a strong disrespect, what do? Well, I don't call down fire. Okay, we don't do that. So I have to change how I think about some things now. So disrespect doesn't mean this. Mm-hmm. And this is happening all the time. Jesus like all the time going, hey, how your faith level is. Yeah, it's a different kind of faith that you need. Hey, faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains. And they're like, okay, but a mustard seed is small. I don't understand that. I thought we need it big. And he's like, no, it's a little. Mm-hmm. No, I thought it was big. Aren't you going to take over right now, Israel? Aren't you going to like lead us right now as king? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it the way you think. He's having to change their beliefs and their way of thinking so that they can become carriers of the kingdom how they're designed to. Mm-hmm. And I think when we're discipling people, sometimes we're just trying to manage their sin. And Jesus was not managing sin. Discipleship was never a sin management program. That's not discipleship. It's not, oh my God, are you still in sin? Okay, get out. Like, that's not it. Like, it can be a part of walking somebody out of sin, absolutely. But that's not the goal of it. The goal is to become like Jesus. The goal is to become a powerful force on the earth that thinks like heaven, that believes like heaven, that acts how heaven acts, how Jesus acts. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, so it's not sin management. So I'm not trying to just fix people. Yeah. I'm trying to develop them to become something they never dreamed they could become. Mm-hmm. So this kind of leads into, so there's kind of the framework. We've got a few verses, but I kind of want to dive into, so how do we do this? Like, what's the thoughts on discipleship? What are those things? How do we as leaders and people have to think in order to develop this stuff in people? What do you think?
You want to ask it a different way?
Ask it a different way. So I want you guys to add in, because I need it to be, what is the, if I'm sitting listening to this and I'm like, man, I want to raise up people. I don't want a generation to not know who God is. I want to, I see young people in my church. I see young people in my business. Man, some of them, a little rough. I want to pull them in. How do I have to start viewing them? Do I coach them up? Do I correct them? Do I rebuke them? Do I challenge them? Do I meet with them? What's that process, and how do I do it? How do I think?
I think it might be all of the above in the right moment. I would say the most impactful way I was ever discipled was also by Tom and Leslie. And they were so good at life on life. And I think the best way to pull someone is to invite them into your life. But I think you already kind of touched on that, of like, it costs you. Like, when we have 3 young kids and we welcome someone into our home in one of their worst moments, it's a big cost for us sometimes, if I'm being honest. And it's like, our lives are moving. They have, like, we have picture day, we have parent-teacher conference, we have normal work, we have all the other stuff we do, and I'm like, oh, stop. Someone needs something.
Yep.
And, like, even a situation came up this weekend, someone's life was really crumbling.
Yep.
And I could feel the delight of the Lord as I adjusted my schedule to fit them in.
Yep.
Because he values their moment of pain and their moment of chaos. And it's just as important than anything else I'm doing.
Yep.
And obviously that doesn't mean you don't have boundaries in your home and your life. I don't agree with that. And my kids and us are still the first priority. But there's those moments where, no, I can adjust because this is part of the command of why I follow Christ.
Yes.
You know, like, it's not just part of my job. And I love how you touched on that of, like, I think so many people leave it up to their church leaders to disciple. And I think if you are not even in a youth ministry position or you don't have any involvement in that, I think it's a beautiful mindset shift that it's not just up to your youth pastor and your youth leaders to mentor your young people. That they actually need moms and dads in the church that not necessarily just correct them, but that believe in them.
Yes.
And so many young people are looking for belief more than they're looking for correction.
Yes.
And I think belief will eventually lead to correction.
It gives you the space to correct.
Yes. And
Belief gives you the space to correct.
It does, because they know you already believe in them, so it doesn't feel like you're just managing them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it kind of leads me to this thought that I love that I want us to hit on real fast, and then we'll kind of hit a few more things. But one of the things Jesus came to do is he came to reveal the Father. So Jesus fathered his disciples. Why? Because he only did what the Father was doing. That means everything he was doing was fathering them through the Father. That's a crazy thought. So if he only did what he saw the Father doing, say what said the Father was saying, everything Jesus did was revealing the Father. So his form of discipleship was fathering.
It's true.
This is an important thing because mothers and fathers have great belief.
They do.
Yeah.
They really, I mean,
You have great belief.
Yeah.
You see your kids and you're like, I'm going to believe for your life greater than you will believe for your life because you don't know how to believe for your life.
Yeah.
My daughters don't know how to believe for their life yet. They're learning it. They're like, I don't know the whole world. I don't know what's possible, so we have to help expose them and create that possibility.
Yes. And I just think as a mom and a dad, you believe in your kids even in their worst moments.
Yes.
Because it's their rough day actually doesn't affect your belief,
Yeah.
which is how you know you're a mom or a dad.
Yes.
Because
That's true.
So many people, like a coach sees you at your worst day, Miracle, they'd like sit on the bench.
Yep. You benched.
Right?
It's true.
And there's moments and there's value and places for coaches in our lives. They have developed me as well. But there's that mentality of like, no, that was their worst moment, but I know what my child is capable of.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know that
Yes.
they are more than what they just showed me, and it's okay that they're having a weak moment. It didn't affect my belief because
Yes.
I'm their mom and I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, that if you're older and you see a young person, you think they want nothing to do with you
Yes.
because you're not cool anymore.
And it's
And
a
I really
total
don't think
lie.
that's true.
It is a
I
lie.
really think that, yeah,
Yes.
there is that element that kids are drawn to cool factor, like, oh, you're so cool, I want to be your friend. I get
Yes.
that. But there is the element of, if you were to just love them and believe in them, they would probably be more drawn to you than you realize.
Yeah. Love and belief are more powerful than the cool factor.
Yes.
Any day of the week.
Yeah.
And if your
It's
life
crazy.
feels authentic and
Yes.
real, they are way more likely to listen to you
Yeah.
than if you're just cool.
Yep.
Cool is important, but you don't need to be cool to impact the next generation.
Yeah.
Is
No.
what I would like to make
Yeah.
a point across here. Like that's a lie, and it disables so many older people from sharing pieces of their life.
Yes.
Because you think, oh, they don't want to hear from me.
Yes, and it's a lie. And something that mothers and fathers, and this is why we need the generations together doing this, because mothers and fathers have the ability to see future. So they have the ability to go, I believe for your future. I am not just seeing you in this one moment or this one space. I'm seeing your life and I'm believing for your future.
Yes.
So I am going to say stuff and insert certain beliefs and ways of thinking that will set you up for your future, regardless of even if you think you need them right now.
Yeah.
Coaches are going, we need to win the game. I need to win the game right now. It's a very present thing.
Yeah.
Moms and dads think future present. They're thinking, there's a future for you. How does your present line up with that future?
Yeah.
It's a very different way of thinking. And I think when you can adjust that in your mind and go, that's who I want to be. Like, I want to pull in a young person that is actually a part of my life and walk with them so that I go, hey, here's what it looks like to follow Jesus, an experiential way that will impact your future. It can even show up. I'm trying to think of like examples like this. If you're a businessman, you ask the Lord for strategies in your business.
Yeah.
Share with a young person the strategies you've gotten. Like, open their mind to that reality at 15 and 16. Open their mind to the reality that God would want to speak to them about that. That God would be setting them up to go, hey, there's a big future and you can ask God about it.
Yeah.
And we need that. We need the history of moms and dads
Yeah.
in young people to pull them into their future.
And if you are a business owner too, like you guys could probably attest to this, that when I would work at a job and I was probably more young, early 19, 18, 20, 21, those kind of years, I would want to please my boss. And I would want their wisdom of like how to become better at my job. And I would want their approval.
Yes.
And they were old, they were like 50s, right? And so there's a big age gap there. But there was something in me that said, no, I still want to be a really good employee for you.
Yes.
And you felt when they took you under their wing
Yes.
and believed in you and said, Marty, you're doing such a good job, it meant something to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then when I became more older and I was in job situations where these younger people would come in, not everyone in my office would take them under their wing.
Yes.
And I was like, I know you're young and you miss a lot of things. And you've made a lot of messes for us. But I'm going to look past that
Yes.
and believe that you could do more. And I'm going to care about your life. I'm going
Yes.
to care about your day.
Yeah.
And when you make a mistake, I'm not just going to assume the worst. I'm going to lean in and say, hey, what happened today? Why did you make that mistake? Are you okay?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like there's so many ways where people just naturally leave the distance there. But if you can somehow bridge the distance in
Yes.
your workplace, in your churches, in your homes,
That's it.
it makes a huge difference.
It does. And the qualifications for discipleship is literally, Paul says it, 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. So a lot of people are like, I don't think I can do this. I'm like, well, first of all, it's a command, and we're all already doing it.
Yeah.
We're just unaware we're doing it. Follow my example as I follow Christ. And I think one of the greatest things that maybe hinder people from engaging in this space, which is vital, we need people to engage with youth. We need it. We don't need youth pastors engaging with youth. We already have that. We don't need youth leaders engaging with youth. We already have that. We need generations across the board in every church engaging with the young people in that church, loving them, supporting them. That doesn't mean you join the youth team. You don't have to join the youth team. You don't have to go, oh, now I have to show up to youth group. No, that's not it.
Oh, no.
It's none of that. It's you are the ones that go out of your way when you see the young person. You say, hey, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Hey, I believe in you. You hear a young person that has a dream, but they can't fund it, and you go, hey, I'll fund that. I believe in you. I'll fund it. I have extra money. I'll fund it. That connection piece. Follow me as I follow Christ. A lot of people think I can't disciple, and I'm like, you're already doing it. Sometimes shame, though, can make us go, I don't like the example I'm setting, so I write myself out of the script. And I want to encourage us to overcome that shame, to go, no, we're examples. And young people are looking at all the church. Like, I'll speak to, here's crazy. When I was a youth, I will never forget this. It's probably why, if you ever see me in a meeting, I am so exuberant in worship. I just love it. When I was a young person, I got saved at 16. And I remember being in my church, and the only people that were expression and worship were youth. We always would go up front, and we were the only ones. And then there was then a flagger team. That was wild. The flagger team was wild. I got saved in a Pentecostal church. The flagger team was wild. But a lot of the congregation wasn't. And I remember thinking, I hope I never grow up. Because I don't ever want to be that. And it is so stuck with me. I was like, why do I thought that at 16. I was like, I have found this passion for God, but I don't feel like I know who to talk to about it, because if I look around, it's not found. Oh, I don't want to grow up. Oh, whatever's happening to them, I don't want to be that. The importance of showing expression and heart and worship in the word and bringing your Bibles, like doing the stuff, journaling. We're like, oh, we want to teach a generation. Do it. It'll catch. They'll go, oh, yeah. Like, it is my dream. I love when adults go crazy in worship, because I'm like, you are teaching our youth that it's okay, and that's what's expected. Like, when we lean into moments, you're teaching the next generation that's what's expected, and they're like, okay, and we're gonna go farther. Right? Follow me as I follow Christ. So we have to look at our own lives and go, do I like what's in my life? Am I okay with it? And am I okay with what's in my life that somebody else would actually take it as an example? It's a tough question, and I think a lot of people aren't discipling because they don't want to answer that question. And they're like, I'd rather not have that responsibility. And I'm like, well,
It's a little too late for that.
It's a command. Okay, well, we got to get out of that. This is an actual command, so we can't erase it from the Bible, and we all love it because we make it our missionaries. We're like, oh, the missionaries go to all the world. And you're like, no, like, go into the world. It wasn't go into the world. So that meant every time somebody goes to their job, and you go to your workplace, and you go to Target and Walmart and grocery stores and all the stuff and Theory Coffee.
But I think another way that would be practical for maybe an older generation impacting the younger one, there's probably a bridge somewhere in the middle. So, like, say you're in your 60s, but you know a couple that's in their 40s and they have teenagers. You are building a bridge to that 40-year-old couple.
Yes.
And you invite them over and say, bring your family. And when the kids are there, you engage with them.
Yes.
Hi, Isaiah. How is school going?
Yes.
And you impact their parents. By you impacting and discipling their parents, you'll impact
yes.
and disciple teenagers.
That's good.
And I think there's this progression of, it's hard like you're saying, people don't know how to disciple, and if you've never been discipled, it feels high stakes.
Yes.
It feels like a big deal. Like, I'm a broken person. No one should be like me. So why
real.
would I?
It's true.
You know, but
Yes.
like when you realize, wow, no one's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all being made into the image of Christ. We are all in a progression of working out our salvation.
Yes.
I do have something to offer. I do have a union with Christ that I can give someone else something from it,
Yes.
right? He has taught me some things that I could teach Isaiah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether I'm as far as I want to be or not, there's still
There's
something
something,
you can
yes.
offer. And I think that if you can get out of this high stakes mentality, and if you never were discipled and you pay the price to figure it out now,
Yes.
you will teach someone how to be discipled, and then they will naturally know how to disciple,
Yep.
and then they will know how to disciple. And it's like this compound interest
Yes.
in the spirit that if you can start now, even if no one did it for you, and you can,
I mean, I'll even say
Yeah.
this is going to be risky, but I'll say it for any parent out there. If you're a parent and you're struggling with something and you're like,
Yes.
I don't want to admit this because then I will let my family down. The actual example of Christ, the actual thing that will change your family would be to pursue it, get wholeness, healing, and to be vulnerable. And your kids go, oh, I want to be like dad. I want to be like mom. Like, on their worst day, they didn't hide it.
Yeah.
They went after it. They believed God was real. They got wholeness. That is, they're watching it and they're going, on my worst day, that's who I'm going to be. It may be painful in the middle, but on the other side, they're going to go, on my worst day, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
it's true.
This is how kids learn. This is how people learn.
People, yeah.
This is how people go.
People don't necessarily learn from perfection.
No.
Because then they feel like they can't attain it.
Yeah.
People idolize perfection. That's why we
Yes.
love social media celebrities. We idolize perfection.
Yes. But you never see the worst day usually
No.
on those things.
Never. You never see the fight.
No.
You're like, oh, wow, you guys are always dressed in perfection. And you never see the real life.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
And I think that's an important thing is that no one's perfect.
Yes, no one's perfect. You've got to start somewhere. And
Yep.
if you start, you are training up the next generation, and then that generation can train up the next generation. And there's this multi-generational thing, and I feel like discipleship is the only way to
Yes.
sustain revival. But yet discipleship is mundane every day.
Yes. It is the way, it's that passing on the ways of God to the
Yes.
next generation so they carry it, but it is in the mundane every day.
It's the mundane.
And think of this, if Paul says, follow my example, and he persecuted the church and was away from God and was against God, anybody, like
Yeah.
Paul's the first persecution towards the church, killing a bunch of people, and yet he's the one that says, follow my example.
True.
Anybody can overcome their past and reconcile it to step into their future. Anybody can do it.
True.
And you're never disqualified. God does not disqualify people.
And you've got to remove the high stakes. I remember driving with Leslie to get groceries. There was nothing glamorous. It was not high stakes. It didn't even cost her money. It didn't even technically cost her time
Yep.
because I joined what she did.
Yeah.
And she had to do it, and I joined in with her. And I watched her live life. I watched her have the meltdowns with her kids, and she had to walk them through it. I watched her have to make dinner and do laundry, and how she engaged with God in the midst of it all.
Yeah.
That taught me more than probably more than a sermon on a Sunday day.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, when we had kids, this is what's crazy. Some parents, they hide their kids' meltdowns. They feel
Yeah.
ashamed of it, embarrassed. They try to correct their
true.
kids.
I've been there, though.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
No one see me?
What's crazy though about it is because we got to watch Tom and Leslie with their kids who had meltdowns too, because kids have meltdowns, and how they navigated it. When we had kids having meltdowns, it wasn't like, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with our kids? Oh my gosh, because all we've seen is perfect kids. Because no one's ever showed us that just kids have
Challenges.
moments
Yeah.
where they start screaming.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know why you're screaming, but you're screaming.
Sometimes they're happy screams.
And sometimes it's happy.
They're not.
If we didn't see that though, what would we be doing? We'd be questioning, oh my gosh, are we doing something wrong? What's wrong? Like most of the world is right now.
Yeah.
What's wrong with our parenting? What's wrong with our this? What's wrong with our kids? Oh, something must be wrong with our kids for sure. Because we don't actually know what's been passed on because there hasn't been a lot of discipleship.
Yeah, yeah.
Because discipleship has been very controlling.
Yep.
It has been do what I say, And that's discipleship. That's not how Jesus discipled. He said, follow me.
Do what I do.
Do what I do. Yeah. Don't do what I say, do what I do. What did he say? He said, who was the people in the Bible that he said, don't do what they say, do what they do?
Yep.
Pharisees.
Yeah.
It's the only people that was like, no. Or no, don't do what they do what they say. That's what he said.
It was so beautiful to watch Leslie in her young kid phase of life. And this was a decade
Yep.
before I even had kids.
Yeah.
And I got to watch her navigate that season so that when I entered early motherhood, I was able to reflect back and remember how Leslie was okay when she missed something for her kids, that she had to pull back, that it was okay that her life adjusted with her kids. She taught me her kids were her grace meter so that she didn't overstretch herself. Like, she taught me so much by me just watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that when I got into early motherhood, I was able to it wasn't perfect, no one ever is, but I was able to navigate different moments when I'm like, oh my gosh, I could feel so lonely if I hadn't seen someone else do this.
Yeah.
And know that it's similar. Obviously, every kid is different, so it's not exactly the same.
Yep.
But it was a great example of how to manage my heart.
Yes.
But I saw it a decade ago,
Yep.
which is crazy.
That's
so
crazy.
awesome.
And I hope what we're hearing and what we take away is it's experiential revelation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Discipleship is about experiential revelation with people. That's why you need to bring people into your life so that they experience God in your life and you in God. They have to
Yes.
experience how you navigate, how you believe, what you think. It's Galatians 4:19 when Paul says, "My children with whom I am again in labor until Christ is formed in you." That's my goal, is that as I pull people
Oh, what a
in,
labor.
what a labor. I'm forming Christ in you. I want you to think, believe, and become like Christ. That's my goal. And I want it to be experiential, so I have to show you what that looks like. And if Jesus said, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, if he's saying, hey, this is who I am, I'm the God who provides, the God who heals, the God who delivers, I have to experience that revelation and bring you into that revelation. Like, that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm forming Christ in you. For me, one of the greatest ways I disciple is I continuously have a revelation of God and let that revelation affect my life, so that as people come into it, that's the effect.
Yep.
This is how we let so many people in, because I'm not focused on, oh my gosh, do I have space for all these people? You'll die every time.
Yeah.
You will lose every time if you're like, the space meter, my time is getting crowded. I don't think like that. I'm like, I want to become so aware of God and have his kingdom and his revelation and him being formed in me. So anytime somebody's around me, I am imparting Christ.
Yeah.
I am discipling as a lifestyle. As I'm living, as I'm thinking, I don't turn it on. I'm not like,
Time to disciple.
it's church Sunday. Better say hi to those young people and make sure. No. That's not what I do. It's in life, I'm changing the way I think. So that way, when I show up to theory and there's young people yelling because they're young and they're screaming theory's a coffee shop. Instead of being annoyed and being like, oh my gosh, I'm like, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I was loud as a youth.
Yeah.
When the person stops by, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be kind and smile and tip. Not because, this is crazy, but you tip because, hey, I want to be generous, not because of how you performed.
Yeah.
I want to be kind to people that open the door at a grocery store because you're kind. So you say hi. Like, it sounds crazy, but we've almost lost even simple things of kindness, love, connection, belief. How Jesus walked, he stopped for people, got on their level. Sometimes we can be so busy and frazzled, we can forget that our life is supposed to be a living testament that disciples the world. Like, if we're discipling nations, that would mean that even people that would see us interact out here at a grocery store would look and go, that person was different, that interaction, wow, that was really cool to watch that interaction. You'll never even know that person, yet your life has just impacted them. And then it filters into closer. The closer you get, then the more you can form. And so hopefully out of all of this, you walk away and go, God is on me. God wants to use me. It's a command. No one is special. Discipleship is not for the elite, the special, or the religious, or the spiritual. Discipleship is for everyone. Everyone can do it, and it's our responsibility to go, God, I just want you to use me. I'm going to pull people in, and I just want my life to be a representation of me figuring out how to follow you. And that's enough. I can tell people, I don't know what God's saying right now. And that's, you know what I do when I don't know? This is what I do. I wait. Because if I teach you that I always know, then you're going to think something's wrong with you because you don't know. Even though I don't always know. Sometimes I'm like, it's blank. It's quiet.
We just read the Bible.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm reading, I'm trying to find something out. They're like, every time you read the Bible, is it powerful? I'm like, no, not always. Sometimes I'm reading, I'm like, well, it's a powerful statement. I don't feel the power. And I'm not feeling it, but I mean, it is powerful. And if you can't share that with people, people go, oh, something's wrong with me because when I read the Bible, I don't always get something. And you have to go, no, that's okay. Sometimes I read it and I don't get anything. I just try. So I'll leave us with one. Any other last thoughts? Or
Yeah, I would just say I loved how when you shared, even Mari as well, it feels like you really highlighted on the point that discipleship takes a lot of personal ownership, and I think that's such a good point to highlight. I think sometimes we think of discipleship, it is something that happens naturally, but it also, for everyone who's listening, it's you also need to be aware that the cost, there is a personal ownership that you're taking responsibility of. And I just wanted to say, the way you guys worded that was so good, and even just to highlight again the point of personal ownership it's not impossible, but it does require sometimes some self-reflection, and you're saying, it's Paul saying, do as I follow Christ. And it's it actually requires movement and action and a commitment as well. And so I think it was just beautifully that you said that, and just to encourage everyone else, personal ownership doesn't take a lot, but it just starts with asking those questions and being intentional.
it's so good. I love that.
Another thing that I would love to just remind people of the cost of sometimes when you disciple people, they don't listen and they can walk away.
Yep.
And it can be really painful when you've given your life for years for someone and they choose to walk away. But knowing and taking heart that Jesus had his disciple walk away too. So,
And it happened.
if it happened to the best,
We're all doing
it's gonna
okay.
happen to us. And so take heart, but also I just that the discipleship's not always peachy. It's
Yes.
not always happy.
It's not always happy.
It takes work, and it can be painful. And you can open your life to someone, and they can betray you, or not even just walk away and not betray you, but it's still painful when you watch someone go. And to remind yourself that Jesus had one of his own disciples fully betray him.
Yep.
So you're not going to win everybody. You're not going to get it perfect.
Nope.
And when you don't get it perfect, just apologize and repair
Yep.
when you make a mess with someone that is you're mentoring.
Yep.
And just know that God is with you. And
And
it's that thing of the Holy Spirit's inside me. I don't have to stress and strive to make sure I have something to offer you. I'm going to be like, we're going to do life together, Isaiah. And if the Holy Spirit tells me to tell you something,
Yep.
I'm going to do it.
I love that.
If you see a kid at church and you're like, I want to buy your coffee. Can I just give you some money for a coffee? I really believe in you. That would mean much
Oh my gosh.
to someone.
It'd become a core memory in a kid's life. They would remember it. They'd go,
And that older, if you're older and you negate yourself, think of how many grandparents
oh, yes.
that we
Impact.
look up to
Yes.
and impacted us. Not just our parents, but our grandparents
Yes.
drastically affect our lives.
Yep.
And so don't negate yourself off age either.
Yes.
I love how you also pointed out how discipleship is not a switch. It's being
Yes.
a Christian. It's not a switch. It's just
true.
being authentic, being yourself,
Yes.
and it's also not rated G all the time. When you disciple someone, bring someone in your house, and you have teenagers, and you're talking to them, and then next thing you know, your teenagers just mouthed off to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most parents are just oh, he's just being silly today. go watch TV. Go watch TV. Oh, you're not gonna backhand slap him? You're not doing that?
Oh my gosh.
But it's being real and being actually, I need a moment with my son right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
And seeing discipline happen in front of you,
It's
not
true.
acknowledging as this awkward tension, just
Yes.
everyone, I gotta say, like, you can. It's just
Yes.
like discipleship isn't something where it's just your life.
Yeah.
And I
Your
love
life.
that. And so many people think like I also thought discipleship was like I have to perform, I have to be better, I have to know
Yes.
that every decision I make, I'm discipling someone. I can't have mistakes. And just knowing your information, Mari and Rory, both of you guys, and what you said, it really impacted me just sitting in here knowing that it's just life and that if I make mistakes, I'm going to walk in them because I feel like sometimes it's like discipleship is I can't have any mistakes, but you can tell me and I can help you.
Yes.
It's not like it's only one way, it's not two ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love how you mentioned that, how it's two-way
So
street,
good.
how it's life, and how it's also believing in them and not what they are doing. And yeah, I just
It's
love
so
that.
good, bro.
Love it.
Thank you.
It's great.
I'll leave us with this, just a wrapping thought to make sure as we leave this discussion. Paul hit something strong. I did not come with wise or persuasive words, but a demonstration of the Spirit and power. So your faith will not rest on man's wisdom, but on God's power. Discipleship is not about reasoning and always speaking. It is experiencing.
Yeah.
And that is why it is essential that as we do life, we obey Jesus.
It's true.
And we obey and we experience him and we release him and we go after it as adults in any environment. Because that is the impact, then people are seeing it and they're going, oh, I want that. I mean, I want it. I mean, think of every person that we look up to. Why do we look up to them? We're like, what you're doing is profound.
Yeah.
It's not just what you're saying. Like, Heidi Baker could say, stop for the one. But if she was, like, never ministering to people, we'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
great thought. Stop for the one. Yeah, okay. Are you stopping for the one? When you know that Heidi
But she
Baker
is.
literally stopping for every person and does it for months
Yeah.
and years and is like the craziest stories, and you're like, yes, I will listen to you. Why? Because the revelation you're giving is not knowledge. It's not human knowledge. It's a revelation that you've experienced that we can take. And when you realize that, you're like, as I just follow Jesus,
Yeah.
I have something to give.
Yeah.
It's true.
As I just follow Jesus, as I take the risks, as I follow his voice, man, I have something to give away.
Yeah. And then you're not thinking like, you're not having to think like, oh, did I do this right? Or like, oh, am I saying the right
Yes.
thing? Because
Yeah.
it's something that's already deep within you. That's a
Yes.
seed that got watered. It's
already in
It's
you.
already in
And
you.
it's just taking it out
Yeah.
and letting someone else feast off of that.
Yeah.
True.
And it just makes
It
takes
makes
the
it
pressure
easy.
off.
It
Yeah.
takes the
Takes the
pressure
pressure
off.
Yeah, you're not like, you should do this. You're like, hey, this
You're
is
not
what I
preparing
did.
a sermon for someone.
Exactly.
You're just being you.
You're just being you.
Yeah.
And as you go about life, that's what changes people.
Yes.
It's like,
As you
that's
go.
as you go. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, freely you've received, freely give. That Matthew 10 verse, as you go.
Yep.
Meaning, you don't prepare for discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
You don't prepare for the moment. You are living it.
Yeah.
And as you go, you're impacting people. And that's why it's vital for authenticity and integrity to be in the church.
Yes.
Because then there's no pressure.
Yeah.
Because who I am at home is the same as the grocery store, is the same as a church service, is the same as a leadership meeting. Who I am is the same. I will take the same risks in all the environments. I will have the same beliefs in all the environments. I will have the same responses in all the environments. That's when you create a lifestyle of discipleship and you invite people in. And in the same way, young people are craving.
Yes.
They are craving to be pulled in to older adults.
Yeah.
And grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads and brothers and sisters. They're craving older people to validate, to believe in, and to show them how to do this thing, and to empower them, and to show them how to do this thing called walk with Jesus, because they don't understand it. And it's something you can't understand in human reasoning. It's something that has to be experienced through relationship.
Yeah.
It's
So,
true.
That's so good.
so fun. Well, great session 3. Glad y'all are here. Until next time.